Well, good morning, everybody. Hope you guys are all doing well out there. We have got some big news in the real estate space today. We had a major acquisition that I think is going to have some serious impacts on our industry. I don't know how much it's going to impact us as real estate agents per se, but definitely going to impact the industry. So, if you haven't heard the news, Rocket Companies, which is the parent company of Rocket Mortgage, is set to acquire Redfin. Um, so I think this merger does a couple of things. I don't know why that's not connecting for me. I think first of all, this creates a significant competitor to Zillow for the first time. I think they've kind of been the dominant player, but they are increasingly trying to put their home loans product along with their search product, which neither Redfin or Rocket could do, right? And so now together you have the search. And now, as people are searching, you can also get them pre-qualified. So, just trying to integrate these services for people, I think, is a big step. So, I think that merger and putting a little bit of pressure on Zillow is extremely interesting. I think the other thing, and this has kind of been known for a while now, but I think this is kind of the final white flag for Redfin that the W-2 kind of model just doesn't work. You know, our industry, they tried it for over a decade to pay people on a salary and have them do this job that is being a real estate professional. And I just, as you guys know, this is just not what this job is. This is always on. You get out what you put in, and it's not just a clock in and clock out business. They tried every which way. They tried all different comp models. And at the end of the day, they had a great search. I believe they are third in search, Redfin is. But the agents weren't successful, and the model wasn't successful. So, what do you guys have to say? What do you think? Who's got some thoughts? Shock? Awe? Not surprised? Saw this coming? What do we think? My mic is on, yes? Lauren.
I think it might be good for somebody as large as like a Zillow, for example, to have this level of competition, right? Kind of like a reference, like if there was no Target, would Walmart be even more insane, right? I think it's kind of good to have somebody at least somewhat at your level. I think one just at the very top can be dangerous and controlling to any industry, not just ours. I like changes, so I'm curious to see what comes of it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to force them to up their game a little bit. You know, they are trying to bring that, start to finish service to the consumer. They've been best in class at doing that. They're pretty darn good at it. But having somebody else that can go start to finish is interesting. I think it's $1.75 billion. These numbers just seem to get out of control when you look at the valuations on these companies, but that's what the acquisition is looking like. Who else has got some thoughts?
I'll share something, Steve. I think one of the things I'd love to see is if they can pull this off on the mortgage side, a more guaranteed, essentially pre-approval subject to just appraisal and maybe them having a job on closing day, because it still blows my mind that we submit offers and the seller really has no idea if this person is going to get a loan or not. So the fact that we run around buyers with pre-approvals, pre-qualifications. So I'd love for them to take it one step further and say, subject to an appraisal, And subject to these people actually having a job on closing day, there's nothing else that can go wrong, right? And I think when you take a tech company, they have the possibility to do that and do it quickly. So I'm just putting it out there in the universe, and maybe it'll come true.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the ultimate goal, and I think this is a great point of where we're trying to go. It's definitely one of the most frustrating things for us as agents, and especially when you're new and you're not pushing the pre-approval. You're not driving the bus. You're just running people around. That you don't have that relationship with a preferred lender where you feel confident that, hey, we're all on the same page and it's worth me spending my time to try and help you find a home. When ZHL Zillow Home Loans talks to us about where they're trying to go with their product, I think that's where they're trying to go with it. That you will know that these are going to close, that these guys are vetted, that you don't have to worry about it. They're not there yet, but I think that's where they're trying to go. So I think your point is valid, and I think it'd be an extreme help to us as agents. Who else?
I have something to say towards what Adam just said, Steve, which how important it is to know. Like as a list agent, I had 9 offers on my Chicopee house this weekend, and I had like a top 3 that were pretty side by side. And I called each of the lenders and asked, how far have you gone? Like, what have you pulled? What have you done? And the one that won was the one that he's done just about everything except waiting on that appraisal in the house. Like it had gone that far. I was shocked. One of them was like, well, nothing. I just went by what they told me. Well, that's great. Great. That's really great. So obviously, that's just towards what Adam said, though. It's important.
Yeah, on the listing side, you're talking, right? Like, what
Yeah.
are we doing here? Like, you need to take the stress level off of me as the listing agent and off of me and my seller to know that we're going to close. To me, in 2025, I should be able to get something that says we're good, subject to the appraisal, right? It does seem like, lenders need to up their game, and we need to get to this level. Unfortunately, I think Rocket doesn't have the greatest reputation amongst the agent community. Hopefully that's something that they're working on. But it's a struggle right now when you see those pre-approvals, because they haven't been the sharpest and dotting the I's and crossing the T's and being basically a guarantee. I think they're almost the farthest from that, unfortunately, right? I think that would be kind of what the industry would say. I don't know if anybody would disagree. Maybe some people have done business with Rocket recently. And yeah, Chris, I'm seeing a comment there. I hope that they up their game, and I hope that's where we're going. But I don't think that's been the norm in the past. It's been a call center. They run the ads. They say you're going to get X. It's a little bit of a bait and switch. And all of a sudden, you're not getting what they were told. And not only that, but they haven't been properly vetted. So anybody want to share any thoughts there? Recent experiences with Rocket? Go ahead, Chris.
Well, not on the buyer's side. So I haven't used them as a buyer, but I have had a listing where it's come in. And like I said before, like I just do my due diligence. And the last couple of times that I have accepted, it has been a one go-to person. It hasn't been where I had to go through a call center. Like they had their loan officer, and both of those were great. I'm not going to lie. I didn't have any problem, but in the past I have. So absolutely to what you said. But that's both of those are in the last 6 months.
Good. I mean, right? That's what we should expect out of a tech company. They should be making strides to get things further along, create systems, create process that when we see that pre-approval, we have a greater level of confidence. Rumani.
Um, uh, Two different questions. So the first is, I have a buyer with a pre-approval of 325. How above the pre-approval can you actually go and can you get pre-approved if you go like like what is the range on the pre-approval that you should be looking at?
Yeah, I mean, if
And
you're,
this,
well, let's stop there.
sorry.
So if you've got a pre-approval for 325, then I wouldn't be going any higher than 325 on an offer without talking to that lender. Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, and a lot of times a lender is just writing a pre-approval in a range where they feel very comfortable, but they can stretch it to 350 or 375, or maybe the client has said, I don't want to go above 3.25. So it's really important to know what does the client want and what can the lender actually do. And then there's kind of two schools of thought on what I want as a pre-approval. If I am a pre-approved buyer up to $500,000, do I want to show my cards with a pre-approval that says 500,000 if I want to be offering in the $400,000 range? So I've seen, some buyers agents say, hey, look, I want a pre-approval for 400, even though I'm good to 500. I don't want them to see that I can go to 500. For me, I take the opposite approach. I don't care what you're offering. I want to see the highest pre-approval. If you're going to be offering 400,000, I would love to see a $600,000 pre-approval. That just tells me that you're really, really strong buyer at the $400,000 price point, and that we're not going to have any issues, hopefully, with this loan. Right? When I see a $400,000 pre-approval and a $400,000 purchase price, I'm nervous. That means that they're maxed out. If something goes wrong on their debt to income, something changes on their credit score, this deal could fall apart. So the last thing I want as a listing agent is accepting a deal where the pre-approval is the same amount as the offer. I want to see a large gap there.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And you had a second question, Rumani?
Yeah, so in the last 2 weeks, I've been working with 2 or 3 of buyers, and I asked for pre-approval, and all of them said that they're working with Zillow. They don't need a pre-approval. And I went online, and like Zillow is doing kind of a soft check. I don't know how they are doing the soft check and giving the pre-approvals. I was wondering if anyone has worked with or heard that how Zillow is giving
Yeah,
loans on the
obviously
soft check.
we do a lot of business as an organization with Zillow, and we've yet to have an issue with Zillow Home Loans. It's been a really good product so far. Our experience has been really, really good. So if you've got a buyer that's just saying, hey, I'm going with Zillow, and they've got their pre-approval, so far, so good. So I would not be concerned with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Lauren.
you.
Kind of back to what Adam and then Chris were saying. If we could get more connections, right, that we were further along, something to that effect, right? I think that's where we've heard again and again about this commission compression that is coming and coming. I think agents as a whole might actually be happier once they adjust to, maybe more transactions that are easier to get done because you have somebody who comes in further along in the process, more of a guarantee, but getting less, right? So higher quantity, maybe at a lower end game, right? So lower
Yeah.
commission in the end, but at a larger quantity.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of ways that we can accomplish this, right? I do believe, sometimes you look at these commission checks and you're like, how can that be? How did you make that much money? You didn't earn that money. It's like, one, you didn't see the 6 months that I work with the client. Two, you didn't see the other 30 clients that I've been working with that decided not to buy, that ghosted me, that I've been chasing for 2 years, right? If you've been in the business for more than 6 months, you know that you're doing a lot of work and not getting compensated on it. Right? It's why this hourly thing just it was crazy to me that when the commission laws started to change, you're going to bill hourly. I mean, the bills would be outrageous for clients that would never buy a house. So we're in a weird industry where you are doing some work that you're not getting compensated for, and it would be nice. I mean, one of the things that I know Zillow was proposing was referral fees based on how long you've had the client. Right? Do we deserve a full commission when they click and we show one house and we put that deal together? Do you deserve the same commission on that as a client that you worked and followed up with for 2 years? Right? So trying to figure out where is it fair, how qualified is that buyer, and yeah, I think you deserve less if you're getting somebody that's closer to the finish line. right? And likewise, you deserve more when you've got to nurture somebody for 2 years and through the process and all of that stuff. So it's difficult because then all of this is all completely separate from the seller. The seller doesn't, give two whats if you've been working with this person for a day or for 2 years. So it's a complicated industry. Who else has got some thoughts? We don't have to stay on this topic. What else is floating around in your head? Who's got something going on a deal maybe that you just want to open up to the group? Something that you learned, training that you took, transaction that you just closed that you learned about? Something? What else?
So my one deal fell apart because the buyers were ready to put in the offer. It fell apart because seller said that he'll not pay the buyer's commission. And the buyer said that she had recently sold a home and paid both seller and buyer commission. And she was like, I don't believe in whatever laws you're saying, and there's no way we'll pay for buyer's commission. So, they're like, okay, we'll find a
Yeah,
home
I mean,
where a seller is willing to
at the
pay.
end of
We're
the
just not going to pay.
yeah, at the end of the day, these are tricky conversations that we got to be able to have with the clients. But if we've got a seller that it has a ready, willing, and able buyer, and the price is right, I'm almost positive you can get these sellers to pay that buyer's commission. But if the price isn't right, they're not going to do it. You can get into a position where you've got a seller that's just hard nosed and I'm not doing it. But if you've got a good agent on the other side that's representing that seller, and we can really have a detailed conversation and we can do a net proceeds and show to the seller, hey, look, here's the deal. Yes, you're paying it, but you're going to net more money with this offer. Or look, you don't even have another offer, right? With a soft market like we're in, there's no other offer. So you're telling me we're going to just pass on this offer. You want to sell your house. We've got an offer. You're going to pass because they're asking you to pay the buyer's agent commission? I don't know. Amber.
I just had a deal like this. We didn't end up getting it because the guy was just using our offer to make another one stronger, but they refused to pay any buyer's agent commission. So I wrote it in as a closing cost credit. So pretty much what he would have been paying me, I lowered my commission a little bit as well, but it ended up being pretty much what they would pay in closing costs and what they would be paying me. So still, I would have been getting paid because I had my contract. And then the sellers would have done a closing cost credit. Sometimes it's just how it's written in the contract, which throws these sellers off is, hey, I'm not paying any commission to anybody else. Where as a closing cost credit, they may not, put two and two together. I mean, obviously the agent will, it is about what you net. So sometimes that will help.
Yeah, I think you
So,
just sometimes it's just using different terms so that the parties, like you said, they might not even put two and two together, and getting with the listing agent to make sure, hey, what's the net amount of money that we're trying to get to here?
so is this a conversation with the buyer, the closing cost credit, or with the listing agent?
I think both, right? Explain to your buyer, this is how we're going to word it. Explain to the listing agent, this is how we're going to word it. Is there something else that we can do to entice your seller to accept this offer? But as far as I know right now, this is the only offer that we have, right? So let's try and make this one work.
Thanks, Amber.
Adam, I'm seeing a message that you sent to me. Why don't you just chat about the topic? Are you in a position to chat?
Commission, how is that actually working? Are they cutting a check to escrow? Are they cutting a check to the attorney? Are they, how do you see that, playing out the right way?
When the buyer's agents are paying when the
Yeah, like
buyers are paying their buyer's agent directly?
Yeah, like in Amber's
Yep.
situation, they could interpret that as I got to give you cash at closing, right? So I'm just curious how are they writing that? How are they writing that check so that it's all above board?
Yeah, there's
And
no
where is it
check
going?
actually. There's no check actually being written. It's just coming out of the close. In the settlement statement, it's a closing cost that they've got to bring to the table. So they got to bring their deposit, right? They got to bring whatever closing costs they have. They got to bring a buyer's agent. So hey, you need a check for $30,000. Come to the closing with, right? So
Yeah,
now, if
how it's worked in the past couple ones that I had. I did have one of my clients ask me if he could just pay me cash.
yeah,
And I said, yeah, I don't think my broker would like that. So it ended up going into the closing documents.
I think
yep,
Adam's asking like, how's the proof of it? Like, Adam, I think I would interpret that by the commission statement. The commission statement would be part of the closing cost credits because that's how I've seen it done before.
Yeah, I'm just trying to clarify. I could see a new agent saying, "Hey, the seller's not willing to pay me. You need to pay me," and the agent's going to say, "Well, I don't even know how they're supposed to pay me. How do they pay me? Do they cut me a check? Do they cut my broker a check?" So I'm just trying to clarify what the best practice is for
yeah.
actually collecting that commission.
The attorney has to be made aware that there is a commission due from the buyers. Where it's coming, it's all who gets what and where. And the attorneys are the ones who are dealing with it now because of this whole thing.
Kate, you want to just
Can I
yeah,
chime in as an attorney?
yeah.
Hi, everybody. What we've been seeing is it's usually listed in the purchase and sale agreement in some way, shape, or form, and then we get a commission statement. And if the buyers are paying the commission, we list it on the CD. It is an item that we go over on the CD, and it's included in the closing costs. So if there was to Amber's point, if there's a credit, that credit is also listed on the CD. So that's how it's showed. And then out of closing, that check gets issued to the brokerage.
Yeah, so it's always going to be just the one check that the buyer is bringing to the closing that's going to incorporate their down payment, their closing costs, and they're paying their agent if they are, right? And then less any credit that the seller is giving towards those things. Fair enough, Kate? That's a simplified version of it?
That is correct, sir.
Yep. Right? So if my down payment's $20,000 and my closing costs are $10,000 and I got to pay the agent $10,000, I owe $40,000 at closing. I got to bring a check for 40. Oh wait, but the seller is giving a closing cost credit of $10,000, so now I got to bring $30,000 to closing. That's kind of the simplest way to think through that. Sue.
I put a question in the chat about buyers that are over 60 ready for retirement and they're renting and their rent is as much as a mortgage and they're thinking, do I buy or do I stay? I've kind of went about it saying, well, if you're really, questioning yourself, go to the bank, see what you can afford. And then if you're really, really unsure, speak to your financial advisor. Do you have any other suggestions?
No, I think you nailed that, right? If you had somebody over the age of 60 that was coming to me with that question, that's the exact route I would go, right? Do you plan on being in the property? And this is kind of how I talk to most buyers about buy versus rent. If you plan on being here for an extended period of time, it's almost always going to be in your best interest to buy. Right? If you're not sure, if I'm going to be here for a year, 2, even 3, and you're just not sure, then to me, that's just stay in the rental. Right? Because I think market fluctuations in a 3-year period, you could lose money on a piece of real estate for sure. If it's 5 to 10 years, especially more towards the 10 that you plan on being in that property, I think it's very difficult to argue for renting. Right? But you got to look at the whole picture. Like, owning a property is a lot of maintenance. There's a lot of things that go into it, right? But you have the pride of ownership. So, talking through first just buy versus rent, forget about the financials, just thinking through that process. Then it's okay, do you have enough income? Talk to the lender, see if you can even get qualified, right? Especially if you're not working anymore, is Social Security going to be enough for you? what do you have in savings? What could you tap into for down payment? We've talked about in the past, and then talking to the financial advisor to look at kind of the whole picture. Anybody else have some advice for Sue and clients over 60? Anything else you'd be telling them? Okay. We got time maybe for one more question this morning. Anybody have something going on a transaction? Put out on the table. All right. Let's take a peek at the trainings that are available today. 5 different opportunities to level up your skills today. Trends and Tactics Mastermind, an Instagram for Normal People Mastermind, building a referral-based business mastermind, psychology-driven sales, and better branding. So a bunch of different opportunities to get just a little bit stronger with your skills. Take a training, learn something, come back and share it with us. Share the show. DM me, guys, if there's something that you just don't feel confident asking on air here. I'm happy. I know sometimes you guys can get a little bit nervous. Happy to just take some questions off to the side and then just bring them as general anonymous questions to the group. So have yourselves an amazing Tuesday. Appreciate you all, and we'll do it again tomorrow morning. Take care.
Thank you. Have a great day.